The morning sun rose over New Eden like it had for the past 20 years. Golden light spread across endless fields of grain that swayed in the gentle breeze. Sarah Chun stood on her porch, watching her children play in the yard while drinking her coffee. The smell of fresh bread came from the bakery down the street. New Eden was everything the early colonists had dreamed of. 50,000 humans called this world home. They had built a peaceful life on Kepler 442b, far from the noise and problems of Earth. The planet had clean air, fertile soil, and 2 beautiful moons that lit up the night sky. Most people here were farmers. Others worked as teachers, doctors, or researchers, studying the local plants and animals. There were no big cities, just small towns connected by quiet roads. Children could play outside without fear. Everyone knew their neighbors. It was the kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked. Sarah worked as the colonial administrator. She helped solve problems and made sure everyone had what they needed. It was not a hard job. People here got along well. They worked together to build something good. The colony had basic defenses, but nothing serious. A few security guards kept the peace. Some old patrol ships watched the space around their planet. The shields could stop small rocks from hitting the ground. That was about it. Why would they need more? New Eden had never seen trouble. Sarah finished her coffee and walked to her office in the town center. The streets were already busy. Farmers loaded trucks with vegetables for the market. Children walked to school with backpacks bouncing on their shoulders. Mrs. Rodriguez was opening her flower shop, arranging colorful blooms in the window. "Good morning." Administrator Chun called out Tom Bradley from his hardware store. His wife Maria waved from behind the counter. Their baby daughter giggled in her high chair. "Good morning, Tom. How is little Amy today?" Sarah asked. "Growing like a weed," Tom laughed. "She took her first steps yesterday." Sarah smiled and continued to her office. These were the moments that made her job worthwhile. This was what they had built together on this distant world. At her desk, Sarah reviewed the daily reports. Crop yields were up this season. Dr. Martinez had discovered a new type of flower that might have medical uses. The school needed new playground equipment. Normal problems for a normal day. Around noon, her assistant knocked on the door. "Administrator, we are getting some strange readings from the deep space sensors." Sarah looked up from her papers. "What kind of readings?" "Ships, ma'am. Big ones. They are still far away, but heading toward us." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. In 20 years, no military ships had ever come to New Eden. Traders visited sometimes, but they sent messages first. These ships had not called ahead. "How many ships?" she asked. "The sensors show at least 50 vessels. Maybe more. They will be here in 6 hours." Sarah stood up quickly. "Send out a general message. Ask who they are and what they want. And contact the security chief." The next few hours passed slowly. Sarah called an emergency meeting with the town leaders. Chief Williams brought his small security team to the meeting hall. Dr. Kim, who ran the medical center, looked worried. Father Santos from the church sat quietly in the corner. "We have sent 3 messages," reported Communications Officer Blake. "No response. What do we know about the ships?" asked Chief Williams. "They are big. Military design. Not human ships," Blake answered. "I have never seen anything like them." Sarah felt fear growing in her chest. But she had to stay calm. People were looking to her for leadership. What are our options? She asked. Chief Williams shook his head. "Our patrol ships are 30 years old. We have maybe 20 officers with light weapons. The shields might stop rocks, but not military weapons." "Could we evacuate?" asked Dr. Kim. "Where would we go?" Sarah replied. "We have transport ships, but not enough for 50,000 people. and not fast enough to outrun military vessels. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. As the alien ships got closer, more details became clear. They were massive warships, covered in weapons. The largest ship was 3 times bigger than anything in the human fleet. Warning lights blinked all along their dark hulls. With 1 hour until the ships arrived, Sarah made a decision. "Send this message on all frequencies," she told Blake. "This is Colonial Administrator Sarah Chun of New Eden Colony. We are a peaceful settlement. We offer no threat to anyone. Please state your intentions." Finally, after 20 years of silence, the aliens answered. "Weak humans," came a harsh voice through the speakers. "I am Commander Velthek of the hegemony of Zektar. You will abandon your world immediately. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation. Any who remain will be destroyed." Sarah's hand shook as she picked up the microphone. Around her, the town leaders waited for her response. Through the windows, she could see people going about their normal day. Children were getting out of school. Farmers were bringing in the evening harvest. "Commander Velthak," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "This is our home. We have lived here peacefully for 20 years. We have families here, children. Surely there are other worlds you can claim." A long pause followed. Then Velthak spoke again, and Sarah could hear the anger in his voice. "Humans always think they can talk their way out of everything. Your weakness disgusts us. You have chosen death over wisdom. So be it." The transmission cut off. Sarah looked around the room at the scared faces of her friends and neighbors. These people had trusted her to keep them safe. They had built something beautiful here together. Now it was all going to end. Outside, the alien ships moved into position around New Eden. Their weapons began to charge with an ominous red glow. Sarah walked to the window and watched families hurrying home, not knowing what was coming. She had one last duty to perform. "Blake," she said quietly, "send out the emergency beacon. Tell Earth what happened here. Make sure the message gets through." The quantum beacon activated just as the first alien weapons fired. Commander Velthak watched the human settlement through his ship's viewing screen. The alien's 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. His gray skin rippled with the patterns that showed dominance among his people. This would be easy work. "Target the main population centers first," he ordered his weapons officer. "Make it quick." Velthak had done this many times before. The hegemony of Zektar ruled through fear. When they wanted a planet, they took it. Any species that refused to move was removed permanently. The method was always the same. His fleet had destroyed dozens of worlds over the past century. The weak always thought they could negotiate. They always believed their words would save them. Velthak had learned that showing mercy was a mistake. Better to end things quickly. "Sir," called out the intelligence officer, "we are reading minimal defenses. A few old patrol ships. Basic planetary shields. No military installations." "As expected," Velthak replied. "Humans are farmers and scientists. They have no stomach for war." The hegemony had been watching human space for years. Their scouts reported the same thing from every human world. Peaceful settlements. Research stations. Trading posts. No weapons factories. No military academies. No war fleets. Humans were the weakest species the hegemony had ever encountered. Most alien races at least tried to build defenses. Humans seemed content to plant crops and study stars. "Weapons charged and ready, sir," announced the weapons officer. Velthak looked down at the green and blue planet below. Somewhere down there, 50,000 humans were going about their daily lives. Children were playing. Families were eating dinner. Workers were heading home from their jobs. In a few minutes, they would all be dead. "Fire planet crackers," Velthak commanded. the massive kinetic weapons launched from his flagship. Each one was the size of a building, moving at incredible speed. They were designed not just to destroy cities, but to crack planets open like eggs. On New Eden's surface, Sarah Chun saw the bright streaks of light falling from the sky. She had maybe 30 seconds before impact. "The beacon is transmitting," Blake reported from behind her. "Message is going out on all human frequencies." Sarah picked up the microphone one last time. Her voice would be the last thing people on New Eden ever heard. She wanted it to count. "This is Colonial Administrator Sarah Chun," she said. "New Eden is under attack. The hegemony of Zektar is destroying our world without provocation. We offered no threat. We asked only to be left in peace. Remember us. Remember what they did here today. Tell Earth. Tell everyone." The first kinetic weapon hit the northern continent. The ground shook so hard that Sarah fell to her knees. Through the window, she saw a flash of light brighter than the sun. A mushroom cloud rose into the sky. The second weapon hit the main spaceport. The third destroyed the southern farming region where most of the families lived. Each impact sent shockwaves around the planet, but the weapons kept coming. Dozens of them. They were not just trying to kill the colonists. They were trying to destroy the planet itself. Sarah crawled to the radio as the building shook around her. "Blake, is the beacon still transmitting?" "Yes, ma'am. The signal is getting through." In space, Velthak watched with satisfaction as explosions bloomed across the planet's surface. The humans had built their settlements well, but nothing could survive planet crackers. Nothing ever did. "Sir, we are detecting a quantum transmission from the surface," reported his communications officer. "Block it," Velthak ordered. "Too late, sir. The message has already gone out. It appears to be some kind of distress signal." Velthak was not worried. Human colonies had sent distress signals before. Nothing ever came of it. Earth might send some investigators in a few years. They would find a dead world and file a report. Then they would go back to their peaceful lives. On the planet below, the attacks continued. The weapons were not just destroying buildings and people. They were cracking the planet's crust. Lava began flowing from deep underground. The ocean started to boil. Sarah's office building collapsed around her. Through the static of the radio, she could hear the final reports from other towns. "New Shanghai is gone," came one voice. "The medical center is destroyed," said another. "The school, the children." The voice cut off in screaming static. Sarah tried to reach the beacon controls, but her leg was trapped under fallen concrete. Blood ran down her face. The ceiling was about to collapse completely. "Blake," she called out. She could not see him anymore. "Blake, are you there?" No answer. She was alone, but the beacon was still working. She could hear its electronic pulse sending her words across the galaxy. Every human world would receive the message within hours. Earth would know what happened here. Sarah closed her eyes and thought about her children playing in the yard that morning. She thought about Tom Bradley's baby daughter taking her first steps. She thought about Mrs. Rodriguez, arranging flowers in her shop window. All gone now. The final planet cracker hit directly below the town center. The explosion split the ground open like a broken egg. Sarah's last thought was a hope that somewhere, someone would remember New Eden. In space, Velthak watched the planet break apart. Huge chunks of rock floated away from what had once been a beautiful world. The green fields were gone. The blue oceans had turned to steam. Nothing could live there now. "Clean work," said his weapons officer. "Standard procedure," Velthak replied. "Set course for the next target system." The hegemony fleet began to move away from the debris field that had been New Eden. To them, it was just another job finished. They had destroyed a weak species and claimed valuable territory. In a few years, They would build their own settlements on nearby worlds. Velthek never gave the humans another thought, but across human space, the quantum beacon's message was arriving. On Earth, emergency signals flashed red in the Defense Ministry. On colony worlds, governors called urgent meetings. On space stations, traders and merchants gathered around communication terminals. The message was simple but clear. New Eden had been destroyed. 50,000 humans were dead. The attack was unprovoked. Admiral Marcus Kane sat in his study on Earth, reading the transmission for the third time. He was officially retired, spending his time growing vegetables and teaching military history. The Defense Ministry thought he was too old for active duty. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Kane walked to a locked cabinet in his basement. Inside was a communication device that had not been used for 50 years. He activated it and spoke a single code word: Lazarus. Across human space, the message spread like wildfire. Hidden facilities that had been dormant for decades suddenly came alive. Automated systems began their startup sequences. The sleeping giant was waking up. Admiral Marcus Kane stood in the secret command center deep beneath his farmhouse. For 30 years, people thought he grew tomatoes and taught classes about old battles. They had no idea what he really was. The room around him buzzed with activity as hidden screens came online. Status reports flooded in from across human space. Systems that had been sleeping for decades were waking up. Lazarus Protocol is active, reported his aide, Colonel Sarah Martinez. She had been posing as a librarian in the nearby town. All primary facilities are responding. Kane watched the star maps light up with green dots. Each dot was a hidden military installation. Weapons factories built inside asteroids. Shipyards disguised as mining operations. Training bases that looked like research stations. How long until we are ready? Kane asked. 6 hours for the first wave. 48 hours for full deployment. Martinez answered. Kane nodded. It was faster than they had hoped when they designed the protocol 50 years ago. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, massive doors opened in what everyone thought was an ice research facility. Ships began rising from underground hangars. These were not the old patrol boats that protected the colonies. These were warships built with technology no alien species had ever seen. Captain Lisa Jang climbed into the command chair of the battleship Retribution. The ship was 2 miles long and covered with weapons that could destroy planets. It had been waiting in the ice for 40 years. All systems online, her weapons officer reported. Fusion cores at full power. Take us out, Jang ordered. The Retribution broke through the ice and headed for open space. Behind it, 100 more ships followed. This was just one of dozens of hidden fleets across the solar system. On Mars, Dr. Robert Kim received an urgent message while teaching his engineering class. His students thought he was just a boring professor who studied metal fatigue. They did not know he was actually the chief designer of humanity's most advanced weapons. Kim quietly left his classroom and walked to his office. He entered a code into his computer that he had memorized but never used. Immediately, his screen filled with technical readouts. Project Hammer is green for activation. He typed. Across the outer solar system. Weapon platforms that had been disguised as scientific instruments began to move. Massive railguns built into asteroids turned toward the edge of human space. Planet killer missiles armed themselves for the first time in half a century. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were weak because they had only seen human civilians. They had no idea that humanity had fought wars that nearly destroyed entire star systems. They did not know why humans had chosen to become peaceful. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez sat in her office at the United Nations building on Earth. For 20 years, she had worked to keep peace with alien species. She had negotiated trade agreements and cultural exchanges. She had built bridges between different worlds. Now she picked up a secure phone and made a call that would change everything. "This is Rodriguez. Authorization Omega 77. I need you to send a message to every alien government we have contact with." The message was short. Humanity is mobilizing for war. Any species that aids or shelters the hegemony of Zektar will be considered hostile. You have 24 hours to choose sides. Admiral Kane studied the tactical displays in his command center. Numbers that would have seemed impossible were scrolling across his screens. Ship counts, weapon inventories, personnel reports. "Sir," Martinez said quietly, "the Senate is asking for a briefing. They want to know what is happening." Kane almost smiled. "Tell them they are about to see what their tax money has been buying for the past 50 years. Most of Earth's government had no idea about the Lazarus Protocol. They knew there was a defense budget, that they thought it paid for research and small patrol fleets. They had no clue about the vast military machine hidden throughout human space. The protocol had been created after humanity's last great war. A conflict so terrible that entire planets had been burned clean of life. When it ended, the survivors made a promise. Never again would humans fight each other. But they also prepared for a different kind of war. If humanity was ever threatened with extinction, if aliens ever tried to destroy human worlds, then the sleeping military would wake up. Every hidden ship would launch. Every secret weapon would fire. The hegemony had triggered that protocol when they destroyed New Eden on the mining station Ceres. Workers were confused when their supervisors suddenly ordered everyone to evacuate. They did not understand why massive ships were rising from mining shafts. They had no idea their workplace was actually a naval base. Throughout human space, similar scenes played out. Asteroid mining operations revealed themselves as weapons factories. Scientific research stations launched fleets of fighters. Agricultural worlds opened hidden missile silos. The numbers were staggering. In just 6 hours, humanity deployed more warships than all known alien species combined. Ships that were decades ahead of anything the galaxy had ever seen. But it was not just about the ships. Human military doctrine was based on lessons learned from centuries of warfare. They did not just build weapons. They built systems, networks, strategies that could coordinate attacks. Across hundreds of star systems. Captain Zhang received her orders as the Retribution reached the edge of the solar system. Her mission was simple: find the hegemony fleet that destroyed New Eden. Follow them home. Then wait for further orders. "Helm, set course for the Zektar home system," she commanded. Maximum speed. The ship's experimental drive engaged. The Retribution disappeared in a flash of light, moving faster than any known technology could manage. Admiral Kane watched ship after ship disappear into hyperspace. Each one carried enough firepower to level a planet. Together, they represented the culmination of human military science. "Sir," Martinez reported, "we are receiving responses from alien governments." Kane looked at the diplomatic messages flooding in. The Altarian Federation was cutting all ties with the hegemony. The Tau Ceti Alliance was offering to help hunt down the ships that destroyed New Eden. Even some hegemony allies were sending secret messages asking for mercy. "They are scared," Kane observed. "They should be," Martinez replied. "How long do you think it will take them to realize the truth?" Kane considered the question. For centuries, aliens had seen humans as peaceful farmers and traders. They had watched human colonies get attacked without fighting back. They thought this meant humans were weak. They were wrong. The reason human colonies did not fight back was simple. They did not need to. Earth would handle any serious threats. "They will understand when our ships arrive at their worlds," Kane said. "When they see 1,000 human battleships dropping out of hyperspace above their capitals." Across the galaxy, Alien intelligence services were frantically trying to understand what was happening. Sensors showed human ships appearing everywhere at once. Ships that were bigger and more advanced than anything in their databases. The hegemony had awakened, something that had been sleeping for 50 years. They had triggered a protocol designed to protect humanity from extinction. Now they were about to learn what human beings were really capable of when they decided to go to war. In his command center, Admiral Kane made one final check of the deployment status. Every major human fleet was in position. Every weapons platform was armed and ready. The largest military force in galactic history was moving toward hegemony space. "Send the message," he ordered. The transmission went out on all frequencies, in every known alien language. "This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the Human Defense Force. The hegemony of Zektar has committed an act of genocide against the human colony of New Eden. We demand the immediate surrender of all personnel involved in this attack. You have 72 hours to comply. This is your only warning." The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was very, very angry. Grand Marshal Fikiner of the Hegemony High Command was eating his morning meal when the reports started coming in. At first, he thought his intelligence officers were making mistakes. The numbers could not be real. How many human ships? He asked again, his voice rising. "Over 10,000 detected so far, sir," stammered Intelligence Chief Pactol. "More appearing every hour." They are everywhere." Tluckiner stood up from his meal, his gray skin turning pale with shock. In 200 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were supposed to have maybe 50 old patrol ships total. "Show me the tactical display," he ordered. The holographic map of hegemony space appeared in the center of the command room. Red dots showed human ships. There were so many red dots that some star systems looked like they were bleeding at Zek Prime. The hegemony capital world. 1,000 human battleships hung in space like dark angels. They had appeared without warning, their stealth technology making them invisible until they chose to be seen. At Velcor, the main military shipyard, 500 human destroyers surrounded the planet. The massive factories that built hegemony warships were now under the guns of ships more advanced than anything the aliens had ever imagined. At every major hegemony world, the same scene played out. Human ships arrived in overwhelming numbers, but they did not attack. They simply waited, like wolves surrounding a wounded animal. Captain Zhang stood on the bridge of the Retribution as it held position above Zek Prime. Through the viewing ports, she could see the alien capital city sprawling across the planet's surface. Millions of aliens went about their daily lives, not knowing that death hung in the space above them. "Sir," reported her communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the surface." "Put it through," Zhang ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was shaking with fear. "Human ships, this is Governor Meltak of Zek Prime. We request immediate negotiations. We are prepared to discuss terms." Zhang smiled coldly. "Tell the governor that we do not negotiate with genocidal monsters. We are here for justice, not diplomacy." Across hegemony space, similar conversations were taking place. Alien governors and military commanders were desperately trying to understand what was happening. The humans had gone from peaceful farmers to an unstoppable war machine in less than 3 days. Grand Marshal Fikiner called an emergency meeting of the Hegemony Council. The most powerful aliens in their civilization gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces filled with fear and confusion. "How is this possible?" demanded Councilor Rikta. "Our intelligence said humans had no military capability." "Our intelligence was wrong," Thekiner replied grimly. "Somehow the humans hid their true strength from us. These ships, some of their technology is 50 years ahead of ours. Security Chief Vulcan pulled up classified reports on his datapad. We have been monitoring human space for decades. We saw research stations, mining operations, agricultural colonies. We saw exactly what they wanted us to see. The truth was becoming clear. The humans had not been weak. They had been hiding. Every mining operation had been a weapons factory. Every research station had been a military base. Every peaceful colony had been protected by hidden fleets. What do we do? Asked Counselor Richter. Before anyone could answer, the chamber's communication system activated. Admiral Kane's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was cold and hard as steel. Members of the Hegemony Council, Kane said. I am Admiral Marcus Kane of the Human Defense Force. You have 72 hours to surrender the personnel responsible for the destruction of New Eden. This includes Commander Velthak and his entire command. Staff. Theckener stepped forward. Admiral, surely we can reach some agreement. The destruction of your colony was regrettable. Perhaps we can discuss compensation. Kane's expression did not change. The time for discussion ended when you murdered 50,000 civilians. You have 71 hours and 37 minutes remaining. The transmission cut off, leaving the council chamber in shocked silence. Meanwhile, other alien civilizations were watching the crisis with growing alarm. The Altarian Federation called an emergency session of their parliament. The Tau Ceti Alliance activated their entire fleet and moved it as far from hegemony space as possible. Ambassador Tlara of the Centauri Republic had known humans for 30 years. She thought she understood them. They were peaceful traders who brought gifts and shared knowledge. Now she watched tactical displays showing human warships that could crack planets like eggs. How did we not know? She asked her military advisor. General Katar studied the intelligence reports with growing amazement. They hit it perfectly. Every human world looks peaceful from the outside. But underneath, it is like finding out your neighbor has been building bombs in his basement for decades. The psychological effect was devastating. Every alien species suddenly realized they had been completely wrong about humanity. The peaceful farmers who brought them food and medicine were actually the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. Trade routes shut down as alien. Merchants refused to travel anywhere near human space. Stock markets crashed as investors realized that human agricultural equipment might actually be weapons. Governments recalled their ambassadors and activated their defense fleets. But the most shocking discovery was still to come. On the third day, human ships began arriving at worlds that had never heard of the hegemony. Altarian patrol ships detected massive human battleships at the edge of their territory. Tau Ceti sensors picked up entire human fleets moving through their space. The humans were not just responding to the attack on New Eden. They were deploying throughout the entire galaxy. Admiral Kane's strategy was becoming clear. He was not planning a simple revenge attack. He was establishing human military presence everywhere at once. Every alien civilization would wake up to find human warships in their neighborhood. The message was clear. This will never happen again. Dr. Yelton, the galaxy's leading expert on human psychology, published an emergency analysis that sent shockwaves through academic circles. We have fundamentally misunderstood human nature, she wrote. We assumed their peaceful behavior indicated weakness. We were wrong. Humans are peaceful by choice, not by necessity. When that choice is taken away from them, they become the most dangerous species in known space. As the 72-hour deadline approached, panic spread through hegemony space. Some military units began deserting. Civilian populations demanded that their leaders surrender the war criminals who had caused this crisis. Commander Velthak, the alien who had ordered the destruction of New Eden, sat in his quarters aboard his flagship. His career was over. His civilization was on the brink of destruction, all because he had underestimated a species of farmers. He thought about the human administrator who had tried to negotiate with him. Sarah Chun. She had asked him to leave them in peace. She had offered no threats. She had simply wanted to protect her people. Velthek had seen her as weak. Now he realized she had been showing him mercy that he did not deserve. The humans could have destroyed his fleet before it ever reached New Eden. They could have wiped out the hegemony decades ago. They had chosen not to, until he forced their hand. Grand Marshal Thekna made the hardest decision of his military career. With 12 hours left in the human ultimatum, he ordered the arrest of Velthak and his command staff. Prepare them for transfer to human custody, he told his security forces. Maybe we can still save our civilization. But deep down, Thekner knew it was too late. The humans had shown the galaxy their true face. The age of alien dominance was over. A new power had revealed itself, and it was utterly without mercy for those who threatened innocent lives. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as human warships held their positions, waiting for justice. The courtroom on Earth was silent as Judge Patricia Wells read the final verdict. Before her stood the aliens responsible for destroying New Eden. Commander Velthak and his officers had been found guilty of genocide. The sentence was death, but that was not the real story. The real story was what happened outside the courtroom, in the space around Earth, and across the galaxy. Human battleships still held their positions above every major alien world. 3 months had passed since the hegemony surrendered the war criminals. The trials were over. Justice had been served. Yet the ships remained. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez walked into Admiral Kane's office with a stack of diplomatic messages. Every alien government in the galaxy was asking the same question. When would the human fleet go home? They are getting nervous, Rodriguez told Kane. The Altarian Federation wants to know our long-term intentions. The Tau Ceti Alliance is asking about territorial expansion. Even our allies are scared. Kane looked out his window at the blue skies of Earth. Somewhere up there, 1,000 human warships orbited the planet. More ships than had ever been assembled in one place before. What do you think we should tell them? Kane asked. The truth, Rodriguez replied. That we are not going anywhere. Kane nodded. Begin drafting the Galactic Security Accords. It is time to make our position official. The document that Rodriguez and her team created would change the galaxy forever. It was simple and direct, just like human military doctrine. The Accords stated that humanity would maintain permanent fleets throughout galactic space. Any attack on civilian populations would be met with overwhelming force. No exceptions. No negotiations. No mercy for those who targeted innocent lives. The response from alien governments was swift and unanimous. They all signed the accords within a week. Captain Lisa Jiang still commanded the Retribution above Zekpron, the former hegemony capital. The planet below had changed dramatically since the human ships arrived. The new government was led by reformers who had opposed the old military regime. Captain, her communications officer reported, "We are receiving a transmission from the surface. It appears to be from a group of school children." Jiang smiled. "Put it through." Young alien voices filled the bridge. "Hello, human ships. We are students from New Harmony School. We wanted to thank you for protecting us from the bad leaders. We are learning about Earth and human culture in our classes now. We hope we can be friends." Jiang picked up the microphone. "This is Captain Jiang of the Earth Defense Force. We are honored to be your friends. Study hard and build a better world than the one your old leaders left you." Similar scenes played out across former hegemony space. The brutal military government had fallen, replaced by democratic leaders who wanted to build peaceful relationships with other species. But the most important changes were happening in human space itself. Sarah Martinez, formerly Admiral Kane's aide, now served as the first director of Galactic Security. Her headquarters was built into an asteroid near the edge of human territory. From there, she coordinated the largest military operation in galactic history. The hidden fleets were hidden no longer. Massive space stations appeared at strategic points throughout the galaxy. Each one was a fortress that could project human military power across dozens of star systems. But they were not just military bases. They were also rescue stations, research centers, and diplomatic outposts. The humans had learned from their own violent history. Military power meant nothing unless it served a greater purpose. Dr. Yelton, the alien psychologist who had studied human behavior, published a new paper that became required reading in every alien military academy. Humans do not seek to rule other species, she wrote. They seek to prevent anyone else from ruling through violence. This makes them far more dangerous than traditional conquerors because their goals are moral rather than selfish. The psychological effect of the human deployment continued to shape galactic politics. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found themselves cooperating. None of them wanted to give the humans a reason to intervene. The Vegan Empire and the Wolf 359 coalition ended their 100-year war with a simple treaty. Both sides agreed that their conflict was too dangerous to continue with human battleships watching. Trade flourished as piracy virtually disappeared. Merchant ships traveled under the protection of human patrol fleets. Criminals who had once raided cargo vessels now worked honest jobs rather than face human justice. Admiral Kane retired for the second time, but this retirement was different. He had accomplished something unprecedented. He had established a galactic peace, enforced by overwhelming strength. His replacement was Admiral Sarah Thompson, a young officer who had grown up on a colony world. She understood the civilian perspective better than career military officers. Her first order was simple: we protect everyone, or we protect no one. On the 5th anniversary of New Eden's destruction, humanity held the first Galactic Memorial Day. Every human ship in space observed a moment of silence. Many alien crews joined them. Captain Jang stood on her bridge above Zek Prime, thinking about the peaceful colonists who had died for no reason except alien arrogance. Their sacrifice had changed the galaxy forever. "Ma'am," her communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving the annual message from Earth." The voice of President Catherine Mills filled the bridge. "Today we remember New Eden and the 50,000 souls who died there. We remember them not with sadness, but with determination. Their deaths showed the galaxy who we really are. Their memory ensures it will never happen again." After the memorial, Jang received new orders. Her ship would be rotating back to Earth for the first time in 5 years. A new crew would take over the Zek Prime Station as the Retribution prepared to leave orbit. Jang looked down at the alien world one last time. Children were playing in parks that had been built where military barracks once stood. Artists displayed their work in galleries that had replaced weapons factories. The old hegemony was gone forever. In its place was a civilization that chose cooperation over conquest. It was not perfect, but it was better. The Retribution jumped to hyperspace, heading for home. But human ships remained at Zek Prime, just as they remained at every major world in the galaxy. Silent guardians watching over a peace bought with the blood of New Eden on Earth. Admiral Kane tended his garden and taught classes about military strategy. His students were young officers who would spend their careers maintaining the new galactic order. "Remember," he told them in his final lecture, "we did not reveal our strength to rule the galaxy. We revealed it to protect the innocent. The moment we forget that distinction is the moment we become the very thing we fought against." Years passed. New alien species were discovered, and welcomed into the galactic community. Trade networks expanded. Scientific cooperation flourished. Children of different species played together on colony worlds. The old galaxy of constant warfare and predatory empires was gone. The new galaxy was not perfect, but it was safe. Pirates, slavers, and genocidal regimes had no place in a universe watched over by human battleships. Ambassador Rodriguez, now in her 70s, often walked through the memorial garden built where New Eden had once orbited. 50,000 trees had been planted there, one for each person who died. Their names were carved on a monument that floated in space, visible to every ship that passed. The inscription on the monument was simple: they died so that others might live in peace. Nearby, human patrol ships maintained their eternal vigil. They would remain there forever, ensuring that New Eden's sacrifice would never be forgotten and never be repeated. The galaxy had learned what humans were truly capable of when they chose to go to war. Now it was learning what they were capable of when they chose to keep the peace. The stars were covered by human battleships, and the universe was safer for it.